that no one's on. Yes. one of the things that I posted a workshop different professional fields, staff life, sort of thing. It's just an important thing. That was very informational workshop. Then there's as far as other parts that deputy director Lake the program, the one that I was going to mention on the maintenance side of things. Vendors are going in at 3. So this budget is here, and mine is sort of just we give them green light in September when the board approved it. But the nice thing is, there were our days fix down with it's going to be blocked off. Right now, last course. So that's the good part now. And then Jim, do you have an update on your
No, just recap. It's been a pretty busy beginning of the holiday season for staff. We had several events, preschool event that was last Friday, to partnership with Kiwanis Club, breakfast stand. 300 people attended. We raised almost 2,000. And then we had our Charlie event that we actually brought back. Right before COVID, we had our first Charlie event. Pretty successful. We had 6 sessions. A new company emerged that we were able to and it was pretty awesome. We went from 6 sessions to 10 sessions. So 277 people attended, kids and parents. The mugs that you see there is what we handed out to all of you. It's been pretty busy. Good.
From staff, I'm dealing with this now. You understand the meetings right now? We have the that's morning.
Back at the shop.
No, this is not a
Just coordinate with golf divisions in terms of days. And we should be getting that, and then we'll get those programs in the spring scheduled.
Good. And we already are posting online for memberships for 2024.
Right.
Okay.
It seems kind of
No snow.
silly, are they over
I
there?
was saying no snow and it's not quite
Yeah.
gullible weather, but I wouldn't be surprised on a warmer 50+ day. if
Well,
something-
last week, as people have noted, two days last week, they were looking at probably what I think people.
Yeah, they were busy.
Yeah.
2 days last week.
Yeah, just-
We actually had somebody in today, trying to sign up. I think it's the last day of a early discount.
Yeah.
So we had somebody walk in because the clubhouse wasn't open. No staff, there's nobody golfing either. So it's just, we need that person, they can register online and do their membership, so.
Those people who play paddle and those
And-
people who
and
play
the
golf
Illinois,
is what
if I
I
can
heard.
add, The Illinois PGA was very pleased with the programs, and they're looking forward to running them again next. So
And I think as we talked about in the meeting, we had positive feedback, from parents and participants in the program. So they were popular. It was a good start this year, and I think we can just build on that.
We do now have audio.
What's that?
We have audio.
Oh, it is working. Good.
It is working. Yep.
Next up, Friends of the Lake Bluff Parks.
So tonight, they voted in 4 new board members, which is excellent. So just really needing some new infusion of energy, experience, contacts, and so forth. So that's fantastic. And in addition to that, through the recent letter writing campaign, we raised about $5,300 in new funds to go towards the annual fund as a result of that letter writing campaign. Anything more to add, John?
No, they expect more money to keep coming in. We're getting 3 or 4 letters a day, really, that keep coming in. Thank you, Commissioner Raymore. We got your donation today. So those just keep trickling in. No, they've lost 2 of their trustees that have resigned during the past year. So they're adding 4 now, and they also expanded in their bylaws, and it made a motion today to expand that to actually 19 as a total. Not that they want to add all of that right away, but they have the capacity to have add more trustees at a later date if they decide to do that. Talking about, working with the park district to do a larger campaign for to kind of coincide with the 100-year anniversary of the park district in 2025. So that's pretty exciting. They're talking about, forming a kind of a subcommittee to work on that. And yeah, I think that's kind of the highlights from the meeting today.
Thank you. Next, Lobola report.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, don't we?
We did get, I had a party last night. We did get approval for the Getz wetlands to rebuild the bridge. So now we've worked, Michelle's has a contract with our vendor, and we will start that as soon as we can in the spring. So we're a little bit too late to do it this year, but we do juggle some hoops with getting through with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah.
So
we
we
didn't
finally
think
got.
we needed a permit, they self-report, and then based on a conversation with the village, we decided to just be safe and go back and do the permit with the Corps of Engineers. So it's a little bit longer, but they're saying they're gonna push that through pretty quickly. I met with Michelle today, signed up on the paperwork for that permit, so that's moving ahead.
Yeah, and she's just about to submit the permit for the ravine work, and that's really to set the stage for education and getting ready to start doing work in the ravine. And that'll go in soon. The deadline's been extended. And then we had a very successful, believe it or not, Saturday night solstice burn on the driving range. And we still had about 70 people, even though it was raining and cold, and we had a good time. So it was fun.
See, that's why you donated money, because you burned out the drive.
Yeah.
Always first friend works.
Yeah.
So, good, thank you. And we'll go into it more later in our new business. And then finally, any commissioner comments in addition to the reports we've had? Seeing as none, we'll go into our new business. We've moved item H up to the very first, which will be our legislative advocacy update.
Thank you for having me this evening, and I appreciate it, commissioners. It's not, I don't take it for granted your busy schedules, and I appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you tonight. My primary reason for being here tonight is for you to meet me, because I haven't met most of you, and also for you to be able to ask me anything and everything you would like to ask that kind of been rolling around in your mind for the last 6 months. And then to bring you up to date on what we did and what we're going to be doing, some of the things that we're going to be doing. So I hope that meets your expectations of why I'm here. And I'll try and be succinct as well. But it's been, commissioners I have met, it's been a pleasure to meet you, and I'm looking forward to the work we do together as I do with John. We got into, as most of you know, we got into the legislative session rather late in the ball game by the time we got our proposals together. But we did get an opportunity to meet with a couple of different legislators on some specific needs that we had. And we had an ask, if you will, for a legislative initiative grant at the end of last year for $285,000. That was primarily focused on some key projects that John had brought to my attention and worked with, forgetting the gentleman's name, your staff.
Micah and Noah,
Micah,
yeah.
and brought forth the kind of things that were necessary, both in the some in aquatics area, the recreation center, and the preschool area. Partly in the preschool area was to make it more secure, more safe, and to have some of the new technology brought into that area. The other two areas are primarily ADA improvements. And by doing ADA improvements, we also get improvements for the general public at the same time. And that was a combination thing and a way of packaging it for the state to understand the need to be doing that work. Now, may not be exactly what you're wanting to do long-term with capital projects and such like that. So, but it's not wasted dollars at all. It still will be money put into the community center that would be very, very worthwhile. We got that to Senator Morrison, and she liked the concept, she liked the idea, but she did inform me at that time that we were actually the last one submitted for the year of her grants. And they have limitations on what they can do. So while we were optimistic and we thought we were going to get funded, actually, we didn't get funded at the end of last year. But I met with Senator Morrison in the veto session, and she said, actually, she's going to do her very best for us in the supplemental budget, which takes place in January. Not real hopeful of it in January, but she said we're her first grant for the coming year. So we resubmitted this grant for funding for the coming year. So that wouldn't get acknowledged until the end of May, but we would have first on the list for doing that. And that's a really good thing as well. That's just one part of it. We still have other people in Springfield that we work on all the time. There's other people we have, John and I have talked extensively about some of the larger projects being taken a close look at for the beachfront and the lakefront, that you do have some definite concerns and issues that would be something that Congressman Snyder might be interested in helping us with. And we certainly have a very good relationship with him. And I think that that's something, once staff have an opportunity to figure out exactly what has to be done, that we can put that forth and certainly have a meeting with him and talk to him further about furthering that endeavors, because some of the federal grants have actually gotten a little easier to get than it used to be. So we just need to make sure we have our ducks in a row, that what we ask for, we really want to do. I have had that situation, but not too very long ago, actually, just a couple of weeks ago, had helped an agency similar to yours, not mentioning any names, but getting $1,250,000 that kind of changed their mind on what they wanted to do in the project. That's a really bad thing to do. It's bad for me and my reputation. It's bad for the district's situation, because if you say you're going to do this project, you need to have your ducks in a row to make sure that's really what you want to do. So there is work, and John's works really hard on making sure that we do have that. We're ready to go. the upcoming OSLAD grant, I had hoped to be able to bring you some information about that tonight. They were supposed to release that on Friday. As of this afternoon, they said they'll release it sometime this week, but we don't really know. Are we in that release or we're not in that release? We don't know. Unfortunately, they had $1 million worth of requests. And you probably know, they had not $1 million, $100 million worth of requests. They only had $56 million available. So that, the types of things they do with that, and this year's projects are being reviewed by an internship, some interns that are at work on it, project instead of how they've done in the past and going back to that. So I really don't have concrete information to tell you about that tonight. So I'm as up in the air on that as you are. No inside, sometimes I have inside information and I don't tonight to share that with you very honestly. But we'll continue to follow that along. It could be good news at the end of the week. We don't know that for sure as we stand here tonight. We'll continue with that. We'll continue doing the projects. Working with Senator Morrison is a very, very good idea. Working with Congressman Snyder is a good idea, and the state representative as well. But we'll follow that lead from Julie, from Senator Morrison too. I'm careful not to step on toes. We do have support from other sides, but as you know, we don't have a real diverse community. So there's some caucuses who are not going to be supportive of us one way or another. They won't work against us, but they won't definitely work for us. So it becomes a little more difficult to do because it really helps when I can build coalitions from different places. Bottom line on it is I'm open to other concepts and ideas. I like to be involved in the writing of grants to the point. I don't write grants at this point in my career. I used to, I wrote plenty of them, but I procure grants. I make sure they get through the system. And even though we're a small district, we are viewed as an important district, and our needs are just as important as anybody else's. And I have the, I don't know what we would say, we've talked, Jennifer and I have talked at length, that I have the doors open to me to make that point that our needs are very, very important. So it doesn't just come from Lake Bluff. It comes from other areas that can see the value in what we're doing. And I think we've made good inroads and just have to see what we want to do next. Hopefully we get some of these. Our plan certainly is to get the 285. We're in there. I think we'll get that dollar amount, but I want to go far beyond that. I know your plans are bigger. I know you have a capital plan that you want to do some huge things that take millions of dollars, but we want to be able to help you with that. Can I answer questions for you? We've talked before. Scott, do you have anything you want to make sure I share with the group?
Is there anything that we could be doing from a board standpoint to help support?
Well, I think, yes, there is, and that's just building relationships. It is all about relationships. Sometimes, as you well know, Lake Bluff is, I need to speak by herself.
Yes, thank you.
Lake Bluff is thought to be in a situation where you don't need any money. And we have to make that case at a small district, smaller tax base. We do need the dollars, and frankly, when we're capped at 5% and everything else around us is going up 10 and 12%, that doesn't help us very much. And our growth is capped at 5% again this year, but you see so many things have gone up through the inflation process, gone up so much more. And we have to make that case to legislators. So yes, there are things that can be done, not just Julie Morrison, but other legislators as well, including the governor's office. It's important to make that case and do what we can do for help. And specifically when we're ready for that capital plan, we should and will reach out to the governor's office for assistance there. We need to do that. That is something I have done before for other districts successfully, and we can do that. So we should do that. Other things, if you attend some of the things in Springfield, like the legislative conference, legal conference, legislative conference in Springfield, we want to make some time to visit our legislators there face-to-face contacts with them. And our neighbors as well, and see what they can do. Because you have other communities take advantage of your pool. You have other communities that take advantage of your fitness center. So knowing that, we can identify those numbers and we can document those kinds of things. That's the way we get the neighboring legislators to be committed to us as well, trying to help that out. Because there are districts around who don't have a beautiful swimming pool that you do. It's aging, I understand that, but it's still more than some other people have. You know, so to make that point that it's a broader, when you say community, it's broader than just like Bluff, it's whoever else is attending from the neighboring communities. But as far as getting to know your legislators, you know, lobbying is not a dirty word. I choose not to use it. It also places some limitations on what you can do. I see myself as an advocate for Lake Bluff Park District, and it helps me go to things and be in the right places at the right time to do a better job for you. But it's a legal thing you can do. There are things you can't do too, but it's very, very much legal to build relationships with your legislators. And I cannot tell you that legislators will also call your director up from time to time and say, hey, I've got this thing going on. You take advantage of it. Can you jump into this new grant that's coming down? Our job, John's and mine, is making sure that Congressman Schneider and others know that we have these needs. And we want to be on their mind. So inviting them to your activities, very important, all the legislators, not leaving any one of them out. Okay, not Julie, not just Julie, but inviting all the legislators, even from around you, to your events. It's okay to do that. Getting the county, I know there's pros and cons to having county board members being involved in activities, but more or less they have money that flows through the federal government to the county that's supposed to flow down to the Spark District. And I know that in the past it's flown very minutely. It can be better. I'd say building relationships with them is important and get some of that money, because there's still money sitting out there from COVID relief funds. And some agencies, some counties are sitting on a lot of that money and it hasn't been released. Let's find out if any of that can be used towards the needs of Lake Bluff. Yes, ma'am.
Could you help us identify how to talk to the county? Because we do know people in the county, and
Yes,
I think we should.
Yes, I can. And I've spoken to Sandy a little bit, Chairman, and I would do so with John or with your representative, whoever you choose to be that liaison. Yes, we could go in and we could make our case. We want to have all our ducks in a row, but we can definitely make the case, and I can prep people, or I can go with you, or we can do both. And yes, I'm available to do that, absolutely. It's part of my job. And I've done that before, and it works best if sometimes they might need something from the district. One hand, unfortunately, like it or not, one hand does wash the other, you know. So we have to understand that, build a relationship that's being there for the other entities when they don't need anything, and just showing up to county events where you know the elected officials are going to be there, and it gives you another chance to talk, for them to get to know your name and your face. I've had people tell me that from the Rotary clubs, and I used to go out all the time just showing up at these things. I didn't want anything from them at that time. I wasn't going to get anything from them at that time. They had other things, but I was there to volunteer my time so they'd get to know them, who Larry Reiner was. And that's what we have to do, is continue to build those relationships. It's not a short-term look that I look at it. It's a long-term thing. I try and build those relationships so that when something like those COVID relief funds came, that, hey, they've got us on the tip of their tongue, ready to say, hey, you know, Lake Bluff can really use those dollars. And that's what we want to try and do.
I would just say too, we did apply for some of those county funds. That was still some relief money this past year in the form of a grant. So we did not receive it, but we are trying. So maybe with Larry's help, we can try a little bit different angle
be more successful with the county.
And I don't know how we compare to other park districts, but we do have a lot of services we provide beyond Lake Bluff residents.
Mhm.
And I think that should be something we should be highlighting, but I don't know how it compares to other park districts.
That's a very, very important, Commissioner. I can't say it enough. I just finished doing some work on a proposal for doing some work for Lamb's Farm. And they're serving 87 different communities. You know, those things are important. They serve 7 different senatorial districts. You know, 15 different House of Representative districts. Identifying that information, putting it out there, makes it more important for people to pay attention to you. I don't know those numbers right now, and it does take, sorry, John, it does take staff time. You know, so it's kind of like we have to make that investment to get that information. I didn't know where I was going with it when I asked them for the information. They didn't know why in the world I was asking them information for that information. But when I got all that information, I was able to see very clearly, this is an opportunity. So I don't know when the numbers will work for us or against us right now, very honestly. But I do know if we gather that information, we'll have more leverage to talk to some other people. It's a very good point. Neighbors count.
So 100 million in requests, 56 million to give. Is that typical? Is that a weird ratio? Do you have any more visibility into that at all?
The 56 million was an outstanding number, really close to the number from the year before.
Okay.
That was the give. And we've gone through years where we got so little money, 30 would be really great.
Okay.
But getting 100 million that's a high number.
Yeah.
We think it's kind of twofold. One is coming out of COVID. Programs are growing like crazy right now. We're seeing another baby boom in the district. I don't know if your district is seeing that as well. Preschool growing a lot. So we're seeing a lot of growth in the programs, but not just the littlest ones, but ones that are like in 6, 7, 8 years old, so on. So everybody's trying to grow the parks. And COVID taught us that we need to take better care of our outdoor parks, our outdoor facilities. We have to have more of them. So there's a lot more demand for not only development, but redevelopment of the parks. And we have some aging infrastructure across the field. Things are 15, 17 years old and need replacing. And we've also become keenly aware of the safety concerns and the need to keep that concern taken care of. So there are definitely more asks out there. Legislative initiative grants helped a lot with that. They were not OSPI grants. They were individual legislative initiative grants done by the legislator. And that's kind of what we're asking Senator Morrison to help us with. It's out of the course of when they have capital dollars, but it kind of comes from, I don't want to say, it's kind of not leftover dollars, if you will, but it's dollars for improving infrastructure as locally as they can and helping municipalities make that mark when we know that we have, you're probably familiar with it, but we have debt limits. You can't, like some villages with home rule can just expand their bond authority much higher. We don't have that. We have our hands tied. Park districts since 1991 have had their hands tied to the CPI. We used to get 2% or less of that a year. So we didn't have a chance to build up a rainy day fund or anything like that. It's only this last 2 years that we've got 5%. I don't think were there any years before that we ever got 5%. And that's the maximum from the Tax Limitation Act of 1991. It's the most you could get. So you don't have the ability to necessarily fund another bond issue like that within your structure. You'd have to go to referendum to get the authority to do that. It may be the course that you end up having to do to get kind of money to redevelop an entire pool and that type of thing, but it's not something you do, knee-jerk reaction. It's something that takes a lot of thought and consideration before you do that. But I don't see too many outside of Chicago, I don't see too many legislative initiative grants that are over 500,000 even. You know, 250 is a common number. If you look at the state budget, you see that over and over and over again. That's why I felt our 285 was well within reach. 500,000 is done, 600,000 is done, but millions of dollars, not going to happen from legislative initiative funds. That's not the course there. But I know it won't, so I don't want to pretend that it will. Other questions you have? Comments?
No.
No, just me.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could share those events you think we should be attending.
The what?
The events that you recommended that we attend.
Oh, okay.
If you could share a list, that would be wonderful.
Sure, I think John and I can get our heads together around that, but the Illinois Association of Park District, like the legal symposium in November, I think that teaches us something as commissioner. I've been a Park District commissioner for 36 years. And the legal symposium teaches us things about what we can and can't do. It really teaches staff a lot of things as well, but it's good for commissioners to go there every other year. The symposium that's down in Springfield, that's where we have an opportunity to mix it up with legislators. We have an opportunity to have a reception. We have a reception where we can talk, not a strict business environment. It's good to invite them to your events. It's good to, frankly, to invite them to have breakfast with us. Could they join us at a breakfast meeting just with the commissioners and John, or John and another staff person? Not overwhelming them, but have, 5, 6 people there, 7 people there, plus the legislative or tours. Now, we have legislative breakfasts that we have hosted here in this building before, in this room before. The legislative breakfast is one that I'm hoping you have. I don't know where the one for this area is going to be held this year.
Oh, it was Gurney last year. I didn't know this year. They have not sent
I
it
got a
out.
list of that.
Yeah.
I'll make sure you know about that. I would say all 5 of you should attend if you can, to be honest with you. That's where John and I began our discussion about working together, actually. And that in Gurney when we were at that meeting. But I would say all of you should attend. You'll meet your legislators again in a very flexible, relaxed environment, not at the Capitol. And you'll be able to spend some time with them over breakfast, sitting at your table. You'll be able to meet with them after breakfast. They stay around, almost always. They stay around, you can chat with them. They can talk to you. And at that time, I'd be prepared to maybe share some of your concerns. But even more than that, plan ahead of time and suggest to them, we really like to follow up. Can you think about joining us with our commissioners only? Because there'll be commissioners there for, about 10 different communities. So you want to use that time to invite them to meet with you and talk to you about the scenario that you reach out to other communities around the neighboring communities and the impact you're really having and what the financial struggles are and being able, with the limitations you have in your tax levy, and it can only grow by 5% and everything around you is growing by 10%, bring that message in your words, not necessarily repeating Larry's words, but bring that message to them to see and let them. One of the senators used to tell me one of the reasons I got funded in some of the strangest years for different programs I was running. He teased me that when John was a board member of mine, is that he could feel the passion. You can't do that through an email. You can't do that through a text. You got to feel how important it is to you, and you can convey that to them. And when I go and I'm making the case for you, that is what I do. And I'm not playing it. I really do care, and they know that, and they recognize that. But also is the detail. I spoke to I remember this one. She's a senator now, and it was a case of people coming to her. She don't explain it to me because she was really happy with the presentation I made to her. And I actually asked her why did she like it so much? It was detailed. I had an absolutely detailed budget for her, what we were going to spend the money on. And actually, the article has 13 different items, and let her choose which item, because I knew she could only, she was a new senator. I knew she was only going to give me 250,000, not the 1.7 million I needed. So I had 13 items there. She chose large gazebo and some other things, amphitheater seating, stuff like that, but she wanted to fund that project. That was fine with me, but I had a detailed cost of what that project, what it was gonna look like. I had a rendering of it with me, and I had cost estimate from Michelle. And Michelle Kelly is as good as they get anywhere in the state for doing that kind of work, for developing the grants and for developing the background. She knows the system, that you need renderings and you need budgets. You go to the ground with a rendering and no budget, I find, I can promise you many legislators will just say, thanks for the information. They don't, you don't want to say, well, I think it's about $3 million. I think it's about $2 million. I don't know what people think they're going to get from a responsible legislator. They're not going to write you a check for that. They want to know, what are you going to spend that? So documentation, detail is really important. When I go down to something, and I think you saw the one letter, grant letter I wrote to Julie, has some detail on it. I had at the time, I didn't send that over here, I had detail from Michelle actually helped me with the ADA improvements. Remember we broke that down finitely. Yeah, there was $152,000 in that one line item that was for accessibility improvements and requirements at in the locker rooms. But I broke that down finitely. It wasn't just throwing a $150,000 number out. I knew what I was going to have to spend the money on. John's staff did some of that work for us. You remember that, John? Mm-hmm. So maybe I asked a lot of questions, but I'm asking for that reason. So we know we did our homework, we're ready, it's shovel ready. If they get and they have 3 or 4 times under Governor Prisco, there have been projects that are out there, they've got a 30-day window, and they're out there. And if you're ready, you've got your project, you can get funded. If you're not ready and you've got to first start developing it, you have very little chance of success. Does that make sense? To answer your question? Yes? No?
Sure.
I don't feel like I answered it well.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's going to be more opportunities, and we really appreciate that information coming from you. Larry, thank you for speaking with us tonight, and thank you for keeping us in your thoughts and in your high context down there, because it's good to know that we have someone who has those kinds of open door relationships with people and knows how to speak our language from the park district.
Well,
That's really great.
I believe in you guys, and I think you're working really hard with your hands tied behind your back sometimes, and I want to help. I'll do everything I can to help you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a Merry Christmas. And
Good holidays to you. You too. We are now on to our 2024 agenda, 2024 budget.
Good. We have made the updates since our last regular meeting in November. There were some questions, comments that were brought up at that time. Those have been, the changes have been made. Copy clean up a little bit with the narratives added. And so that's what you have in the packet for approval or consideration this evening.
Anybody want to dive in with questions that they have?
I'll start with the question. On page 36, under the revenue categories, the difference in investment income, I know we had a budget of about 300, we have 90,000 in investment income, and then projected a little bit more for 2024. I'm guessing that is from investing our cash in a higher rate money market.
Exactly what it is. So it was putting in our max safe account, putting more money. We used to have it in the LAP, the Illinois Liquid Asset, Park District Liquid Asset Fund, brought back when maybe a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, and put into savings, but that's what that is. It's just 4.5% or whatever that we're earning now on that with over $1 million in that account.
Okay, great, thank you.
And on that same page, just a quick question, because again, it does give the asterisk of the 2022-24 grants and donations. That is being tracked as to what has been contributed to date and what's still outstanding to date?
Yes.
Okay, is that just another footnote that's detailed deeper in the budget, or?
It's being tracked. I don't know that we listed that out in the budget. I know that we have.
I just want to make sure we're not double counting or over counting or.
No, I can print some detail on that. Can work with Rich and get some detail pulled out and send that around.
Okay. So I think it's still outstanding by about 15K or so.
It is, as far as the that they were making 3 payments over 3 years. So there's 1 year left, 1 payment. So that's accurate.
And sort of on that same page 36 for grants and donations, only because it says grants there. Any sort of grant that we might get as a result of our legislative advocacy, would that go in that category? Is that going to be in a different section?
Oh, it'd go in that category.
Okay.
So we're budgeting for it, we're hoping for it, but not counting on it as revenue right now.
That's fine. Okay, thank you.
Question, is the 13,500 then the pickleball payment there in that grants category for 2024?
Or is that just general?
Yeah, is it, or is it the pickleball payment that Jennifer was talking about? What's the 13,500?
Probably the interresidential.
It probably
Yeah.
would, because I think it paid a little bit
It's
more.
higher.
I again have to go back on the detail, but I think that's probably the final payment of pickleball.
Yeah, because the 23 was 17,500 and then there's one missing. What was 22 payment? Unless you know.
What page are you on?
We're on
36.
36 under the grants and donation categories. It hit a budgeted projected of
It's just under the
75.
grants.
So that last one would bring it up to, I'm assuming that 13.5 payment would bring it up to the 40.
The grants and donation.
Yeah, no, I see it. I think that's
What
what that was.
over 40,
Four.
right?
That grant,
17, 17.
I
do you
think
know
that
what
was
that grant?
Yeah, I think that was for pickleball, but I don't know if that's putting it over. I know that
Yeah, that puts it over.
the Friends was actually donating more than just the pickleball. You know, they were also talking about donating some other projects as they have in the past. So I'd have to go back and look at the detail, but I think that's,
Probably includes what they were budgeting.
yeah. Or any other questions?
Yeah, that makes sense, because maybe they just plan on giving, because the 4,000 on the other years, if they plan on just giving 4,000 a year, it's exactly 4,000 over for the 40,000, the 13,500 makes it
yeah.
over 4,000,
Right.
so.
On page 52, excuse me, you do get the notation bottom in 2023 general and recreation funds are budgeted to be transferred to the capital fund. 52. So that was for our last discussion, so that's been included.
Yeah, that was one of one of the comments from the last meeting and one of the larger adjustments that needed to be made in order to balance so that they wouldn't end up in a negative, and that's a moving target as we go forward with, those projects. But that's pretty far out, but for now, we did make that adjustment.
Right.
We did it at the rec fund expense, so thank you, Jim. It's just a big transfer to the capital.
Thank you for that contribution.
John, at the very end, when we go over the capital projects for the next year and upcoming years, the very, very last item is total ADA. I was having trouble kind of finding what that project was.
Which page are you on?
Very last page, or I'm sorry, no,
54, 55.
55.
Oh, 55. And your question was?
The 162,500.
Yeah, the 162.
Yeah, like
So-
this, the 636, that all checks out. I don't know where that 162,500 is coming from. And it doesn't match up on this, any deductions from the special rec.
It is just what can be applied to ADA. So the one of these was the ramp for paddle hut. So 100% of that could be applied as like 125,000. And then it was percentage of other ones that projects that could be applied to ADA, which most are not 100%, they're a smaller percentage, but obviously the ramp for the ADA was.
Okay, and then just follow me back to page 46. Right in the middle, that capital project, or transfer out capital projects. The 162,500 checks out, but the other numbers don't. I know they're in the future, but we need to make sure that all that turns out.
Okay.
John, could you briefly go through the planned capital projects for 2024?
Back to that. Page up on my computer, make it a little larger.
Yeah.
Small print. So for the 2024, we have for Sanctuary Park, replacing playground, 160,000. For West Park ball fields, we put in 20,000. Anticipating some work that needs to be done there. Sunrise for the beach cleaner of $50,000. As well as Tuck Point at 15,000 to 65,000 for Sunrise.
So the beach cleaner is a new.
So that was one that was budgeted this year.
Mhm.
And then we were concerned about the length of delivery for the new truck. And so a recommendation from our fleet mechanic, we decided to buy the truck instead for a similar amount of money this year and then budget for the beach cleaner next year. So that was carry forward.
Okay.
Let's see, and then as we move down to the recreation center, we have in the right column here. So there was 10,000 for flooring in the hallway and lobby of the second floor, 25,000 for flooring in the weight room. And these are things that we'd come back and reevaluate with the board before the work is done. And we have 12,500 for a new washer for the fitness. Let's see. We had 20,000 for a boiler and 15,000 for replacement of a second boiler in the admin mechanical. Let's see, locker room of 30,000 for tile and counter in the locker rooms. Again, we're going slow on that one because that's in that money that would be part of the SAVE funding if that were to come through. So then we wouldn't use our money on that. And then again, there's more flooring upstairs, another 43,500 for flooring. So technology and hardware and software of 35,000. The ADA ramp is 120,000 for the paddle. This is for golf. 2 zero-turn mowers for 50,000. HVAC work at the clubhouse for 30,000.
Now, are those two golf expenditures coming under the golf fund? Right,
Those are funded by, receipts from golf missions as part of our agreement.
Okay.
That 80,000 would be.
Got it.
And then that, I think. It is.
I mean, if I can just interject here, the money we get from the golf course goes into the pot. So it's not, now what we've said is money that comes in is going to be used for the golf course. So we're not going to take that money. The contract with Golf says we're not going to take that money and use it on the recreation center, for example.
Right.
But from a budget point of view, it all goes in the pot.
Yeah.
And goes out.
I thought it was supposed to be like a separate fund or something like that. Is it in a separate, or just categorically?
Just categorically, there was never any, it's not a separate bank account. or
Yeah.
anything.
Not a separate. We were gonna create a sub fund.
It's your separate.
Yeah, we were supposed to
Yeah.
create a sub fund for it.
We can ask if those are something to delineate.
There should be some kind of
Yeah.
notation, right?
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yes.
We're gonna add that.
It's like, what does the contract say? I thought I remembered it saying something about being like a separate fund. But I don't have it in front of me, so I don't.
Well, there's no guarantee, they give us money, there's no guarantee they'll cover all the capital, but it would be nice to see how much of the capital we're spending for the golf course is already given to us from big golf.
Right.
I think we can just separate that as another P&L line item rather than carving out an actual piece of the budget for this exercise.
Yeah.
Right, we just see what money we've taken in over the last 18 months on the revenue side, see how much we've outlaid, and then right now it's zero. This is just kind of going back to that. I think it's just a different exercise.
Yeah, it's, I mean, you can figure the numbers. Revenue this year, 2023 is going to be something above $100,000 from the golf course.
Right.
And we pay 5,000 or something for insurance, some, really de minimis number.
Right.
And then we see and that's spent on the golf course. But you're right, there's nothing that says we can't spend more.
Right. But I'm just saying, you
It
know,
would be nice to know how much of our capital, what percentage of our capital is covered by golf.
Right.
I just, trending. Last year we used 75,000, this year we didn't have to use any, so we've now, our net is, we've got a fund somewhere. So,
It might not even be the right time to ask, but I think is the paddle ramp, ADA ramp for 120,000, that has to be more than just a ramp, it's other ADA stuff too, because that's a really expensive ramp.
Yeah, it is.
I'll build that ramp if you want.
Yeah, you're for
Or
very
deck.
well.
Scout project?
We were talking about getting Michelle from Lavola to find.
No,
kind of-
Boy Scout project.
That was saying, Boy Scout, I just said that,
Yeah,
Boy Scout
Boy
project.
Scout project.
yeah.
We would take a closer look at that to see, apparently the ramp that's there does not meet the code. This number, I'm not sure what all went into that, so we would have to see, it might have been, including,
The small home.
well, having a landscape architect do the design to, to ensure that it's gonna meet the, the code when it's done, but it's one of those, it's hard to, it's a hard one to accept that we have to do, we already have one there, how much is it even used?
Right.
To rebuild it for this cost, but
Well, does it need to be rebuilt? I mean, the question is, if you need to rebuild it, then I think you need to think about doing
It's-
ADA, but to rebuild just to make it ADA, I don't think that's a requirement.
that's something we would definitely check that to see if that's, because there was an ADA audit. I think Jim was probably here at that time when they worked with John McGovern. So do you remember any of the conversation about the ramp, Jim, from that
Not
project?
about the paddle, but about the beach, because that's what they came here for,
Yeah,
because we had a complaint at the beach
okay.
with the railings. That's before we redid the steps.
But they also did an audit at one point of the park district.
Yeah, I think that might be right before
Oh,
I came here.
okay. So we would take a look at that to see, if it is absolutely required, and then, of course, we would look for the,
Best quote.
yeah, well, and then anything, over 30,000 to be bid out.
Right, right.
So, yeah, we would look for, a more
Okay.
efficient way to do it.
Yeah, okay.
So where do we get the 120 number from then?
That was in the master plan. Some of these, numbers, they worked with ACG, the architectural, group, that helped, look at a lot of the facilities and figured out the price and the cost, or the price and like the life of the roof, or replacing the doors, or doing a lot of the work. They did, so they did a lot of that work and helping, pull what went into the master plan. Some of it I think, just got from maybe individual quotes at the time, and then we add a little bit of money to that as it goes by. I can't be sure because it was before my time, and I didn't see exactly. I mean, I can go back and look at the ACG binder. It's 10 inches thick, going facility by facility, parks, playground, sidewalks, parking lots. Just evaluating everything. So I could take a look at that. I wouldn't want to guess right now, but it's probably either with ACG or it was talking to a consultant at the time that original number was developed. Yeah, seems like a lot. Seems like you should put in an elevator for 120,000.
Oh, another fifth court, like it's.
Right.
Is that
Ground level.
grade degrading? Is that why it's on the capital, or is it just because it was on the capital, it's the time has come?
Yeah, I didn't know. I've not found the reasoning why it got put on the capital and why that year it got put on. Because a lot of these were signed years. So before we do it, though, we would definitely work to get a little bit more information and bring that back to the board before, before we actually spend that money. And that money could come out of that SRA levy. And that is the only good part about that ramp, I guess.
And then sort of same question with the playground. Is that just a playground that needs to be replaced? Like, has it deteriorated, or?
It is.
What's our plan to do there?
Yeah, it's a total replacement, and it's based on the age. In talking with Noah, we've had a number of meetings, with Noah, Micah, Jim, our fleet mechanic at the time, Ben, and just going, park by park, talking about every component. So there's a small shelter and sanctuary, there's a playground, talking about the, how old is the playground, what kind of condition is it in, is it something that they're able to replace, find parts for, and that's an old playground that's really showing its age. So that's why it was put in for next year.
Matter of fact, I believe Noah said that none of the parts were available anymore for that. Like,
And that would be a one, and that's always one we could decide, if we decided to go up for the OSLAD grant, that would be a good project for, an OSLAD grant, much better than pool repair work, where you could, so if we're saying it's, playground's 160,000, you could apply for matching, 50-50 matching grant on that. And
Meaning they're more likely to grant it for something like that.
yeah, be more a better candidate, and then you could do playground or maybe upgrade the shelter or one or two other amenities, because what they really like with OSLAD grant is adding new leisure opportunities and amenities to the parks that aren't there now, not just repairing what you have or replacing what you have, but also adding some new. So if you put in a pollinator garden and some interpretive panels, there's buy-off points.
And so is that number an older number as well?
That is one that we did adjust as we took a look at that and the amount of equipment there. I don't think that's a based on an actual quote, but it was an older number that was adjusted.
Noah had gotten a grant for the last part. Do you remember, Jennifer?
Oh,
Yeah,
with
so that
Mama?
was when I was here. We applied for that. That was a manufacturing grant from Miracle
Yeah.
for equipment at West Park Playground.
Mhm.
And so that
Is there something like that
worked pretty
available?
well. We would look there. We haven't seen anything like that come out lately, but we did that in-house,
Mhm.
ourselves, in applying and receiving that one.
It was like 50-50, wasn't it?
It was, it was. We were able to replace the large structure there and put in some really nice equipment.
But I'm thinking there'll be an ADA feature with that playground as well, so.
Yes, yeah, you're always wanting to add some, accessibility to it and some features. So
Yeah, maybe pull up that one that we got and just check again to see.
yeah, they will a lot of times they send that out to us, occasionally. It's not, like something that's available all year long, but they'll do it from time to time. But we would definitely check on that and see if any other manufacturers are doing that as well.
I had a question about the baseball also. Aren't we partners with them and they pay part of it, like 50%?
Yep,
Or
well, it depends. Certain components, there is a share. Certain are higher,
Mhm.
even higher for them than they are for the park district, or vice versa, depending on what it is. So there is a
So the
a list.
baseball fields for the 20,000,
Yes,
are they paying part of that?
yes,
How much?
yeah, that would be a share. That was an estimate, that Noah had in working with youth baseball. So I think that theirs was gonna be considerably more money than what we're putting in.
Okay, so this is our portion of a bigger price, you're
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other budget questions? Marcia, kind of quiet.
Marcia's quiet. Looks good.
Yeah, the only question I have, John, I mentioned this to you before, is that there's some pretty significant damage done to the fireplace at the North Shelter on the beach. And I just wondered if anybody had assessed that. And it may not be a capital this year, but I just wondered if somebody had looked at that to see. No, we didn't know.
What was the damage?
It looks like someone took a crowbar to it and
Oh my God.
the base of the fireplace is broken down to the rebar.
Oh my.
What?
When did this occur?
It's happened probably this December, in the fall sometime. So it's about 2 inches deep and the rebar's in there. And right now it's fine, it's working. But I just worry somebody should be aware of that. And I thought I had said something to Noah.
And we have 15,000 for tuck pointing
That, I don't know if you took point.
down there,
It's
but
usually brick.
at least it's some money,
Yeah,
available for it, but we'll, if you want to make a note, we'll have, we'll take a look
I
at
don't think
that.
it's this year, but I thought I'd bring it up since I had mentioned it to Noah and, yeah.
Anything further? I know this is, setting this forward as our budget for 2024. We know that there's going to be flexibility in there, as I'm going through the different programs with plans or aspirations, I shouldn't say aspirations, plans or projections for 2024, especially with the basin project that may have impact on our budgeting numbers for the beach, but we'll talk about that further. And as I said, we do have flexibility built into this as well. Anything else? No. Okay. First off, a thank you to everybody on staff who obviously puts in countless hours in order to be able to get this together, to help it refine it, to the finance committee for shepherding this through. At this point, we have to make a motion and to approve the 2024 budget for next year. So moved.
Okay.
It was,
That was Sue motion.
oh, yes,
Second,
okay.
Scott.
Gotcha, okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Lane,
Yes,
Commissioner Raymore,
Yes.
Commissioner Reader,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh.
Yes.
Commissioner Webber,
Yes.
President Wheeler.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. So, guide for us for next year. On to our 2023 tax levy ordinance. We've gone through this and leading up to this. Now we are finally to the point where we are ready to make a motion on this, correct?
This is what both the finance committee recommended and the board has already agreed to is just the 5% level.
And then it spells out with each successive page what the tax levy would be in the total amount of the $3,581,242. Anyone have any? We've discussed this many times. Go ahead, sir.
Just curious if there was any public comment made on the tax levy. Was that posted?
No. We've not received it.
Okay.
And I understand the village also passed theirs as well, which is a similar tax levy.
Yeah, and I think that when I reached out earlier, I think both the village and the school district were both doing 5%.
Then may I have a motion, please, to approve the ordinance 2023-E, an ordinance for the levy and assessment of taxes for the 2023 tax levy of the Lake Bluff Park District of Lake County, Illinois, in the amount of $3,581,242, which is a 5% increase of the total 2022 tax levy.
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Lane, yes. Commissioner Raymore, yes. Commissioner Reader,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh.
Yes.
Commissioner Webber,
Yes.
President Wheeler.
Yes. Next, we have the IMRF resolution authorizing the appointment of our authorized agent, which, John, I think it is you, correct?
Correct.
So we need to appoint.
Should I move?
What?
Oh, go ahead.
Do we need to have any discussion on this? And John is going to be the IMRF, the pension.
So we've done in the past, when Josh left, then we went, appointed me, an interim, we hired Wolf, appointed Wolf, now Wolf leaving, so, or has left, so it's appointing me, at least for the interim.
Make you passed off again.
And then we'll see how that works.
Take it away. Can I move to approve resolution 2023D authorizing the appointment of an authorized agent for the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund and appoint Executive Director Beeler as the authorized agent?
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Lane,
Yes,
Commissioner Raymore,
Yes.
Commissioner Reader,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Weber,
Yes.
President Beeler.
Yes. Next is our resolution for the regular board and committee of the whole meetings for 2024. Everyone has seen the calendar proposed for next year, recommended by staff. Can I give a motion, please, to approve this resolution 2023E for the 2024 regular board and committee of the
We'll move to make, to approve the resolution 2023E 2024 regular board and committee of the whole meeting dates.
roll call, please, Marcia?
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Lane,
yes,
Commissioner Raymore,
Yes.
Commissioner Reader,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Weber,
Yes.
President Beeler.
Yes. All right, our next item is the North Shore Water Reclamation Basin Project updates.
So I did call the engineer from North Shore Water Reclamation District, Steve Waters, last week to touch base with him. There was just again voiced our concern about the pace of the project, and it as the concrete is running behind here for the basin. And they did say that they had a project, or they had the plaza part of the project when it was going to their board, North Shore Water Reclamation Board in December. That was approved. Now they're working with the village to get final approval from the village on that, and they should be on the plaza area. My concern was that, we have to have the road and the parking lot in order to open South Beach safely next year. That cannot still be an open construction area. And so they're aware of this because we're, as I told them when I reached out weeks ago, we're budgeting, we're planning our staffing for next year. We need to know whether the South Beach area will be open, so we know whether we're staffing that area with lifeguards, so we have the revenue from the South Shelter. And then in addition to that, potentially bringing back at least a fenced-in area with the yacht club where we could bring our boats that are used for our lessons and the safety boats, and then the yacht club could bring their regular racers, at least for next summer. Even if they don't have a structure, they won't have a structure. But if we had a fenced-in area to store those things, then we could bring back our learn to sail camp. And if we don't, then that's a pretty good chunk of revenue that we're not bringing back. And it's a second year of not in a row of not having a class. You just start to lose those, the instructors with their certifications and the kids coming back as the kids have gone to other programs in Lake Forest or other communities. So, so I've stressed that to them. They're aware of it. They're working towards that, but they won't commit. They said they sell it. They have to have it approved by the village and then work with their contractor on the timing. And they've, noted that it's definitely a priority to try to get that reopened. But it's, to me, it's questionable. It's definitely questionable. They're behind. I thought, as I told them last week, I thought originally the plan was not to work every Saturday this entire summer and 12 hours a day this entire summer. So we thought by doing that, allow them to do that, we caught up, which I felt that they were getting caught up and getting into a good place. And now they've gotten behind, again, with the concrete and then concerns about this plaza. So they think they'll have a lot better, more accurate information on scheduling for us in January. So
They were pouring cement today.
yes,
Coldest day of the year.
yeah, I know that they're able to put some heat in there and try to. I know I've talked to
George Russell as well, who's following the project, and has often been helpful with a lot of information on it. But yeah, he said there's still, I mean, they could do concrete all winter long, it's different, you know, being in the pit like that, they using heat or blankets or different methods so they can keep going. You know, his concern was that they have a little bit smaller crew, you know, right now that's working there each day. So, but I brought that up to Steve. He said, you know, some of that's the constraints of the site, you know, the smaller site and how many people they can have that or they're working or how much equipment they can have there at one time.
So we're in the dark as to whether we will have Memorial Day open. We're just not gonna know until January, so.
I would
I
say.
mean, you're still planning. And well, you know, February is the hiring time, so that's what we're anticipating, but.
And that's how we budgeted at this point, is to be able to reopen.
And we need to know because we have to send our potential sailing manager to get certified. They don't have to be certified, but we like to have them certified. And those classes are held in late spring.
I'm sorry, what new information do they think they're gonna have in January that they don't have now?
So they're working with the village on the approval for the plaza, the final plan for that, because as I explained to them, I don't even care about the bathrooms or the shower or any of that, but we have to have the parking lot and the roadway has to be safe and, you know, accessible. The bathrooms, I can put porta potties on there for another summer and get through. But they're working with the village to get those plans, those final plans approved, and then going back to the contractors to figure out the scheduling for that portion of the project.
And we're assured that the bathrooms, the shower that we were guaranteed originally are not any sort of a change order or anything else.
Well, I
As far
haven't
as
asked
we know.
recently, as
I
far as
know.
we know, it's
As
still
far
as
as
part
we
of the project, they're still
Okay.
planning on doing it.
What else needs to be approved by the village?
Yeah, I'm not sure, I mean, they're saying that, you know, one of their complaints for North Shore was that the traffic plan was one of the big holdups, that was one of the biggest things that slowed them down, that they were asking the village for approval and didn't get for quite a while. That's again why they go back to why it started so late.
Right.
But I didn't ask that question. What other, you know, parts of the project need separate approvals? You know, usually you try to get that all, you know, when your project starts at once.
You
But
get the approvals.
so I don't know what else. It's a good question. I guess I could ask
Uh-oh, we
that.
didn't get the approval for something.
Unless there was a change order, and that could have been.
Those, yeah, change order.
Because if
might have-
there was something different in the change order, that was at least one of the things that Cindy Fletcher had said, there could have been a change order. If there were a change order, then they would have to go back, get approval from North Shore Water Reclamation, and then present it again to the village to approve whatever the change order was.
So something was changed.
We don't know. We're the last in line on a need-to-know basis. But again, John is reaching out and does have the contact with Keith to try to get this information, and obviously the contact with Drew Irwin as well, to make sure that whatever information they have, you know, it's shared with us as quickly as possible. We're just not involved in the negotiations.
This is a topic that comes up for the tri-board meeting. Is this discussed every month?
It used to be on there just about every, you know, most of the time. It hasn't been, you know, actually we haven't been able to do several of the meetings, and the last time we got together, it wasn't discussed.
Yeah.
I don't believe it unless you remember it, Jennifer.
So when was the last time the tri-board met?
We met with the school board, but it was mostly in discussion of the Rio process.
But that was just a couple of weeks, like a week or so ago.
So there's going to be another meeting coming up soon.
Yeah, January.
You might ask to get that on. I mean, it seems reasonable that we should know.
And I agree, and I really think the level of communication, I know that John asks, and I think that's important, is that we're the ones that have to, you know, make sure that we make that reach out there. Cindy Fletcher, who is, we approved as a board to work to help have that contact, is no longer, she's done.
Right. We've wound that down for, just because we don't have much new to report, so
and again, because we don't have anybody from staff who's actively manning the access road, it doesn't make it her need to be there. But again, I think she was very effective this summer with making sure that information was relayed on a timely basis. I mean, you know, having a board with Velcro and all the changes that went on. I think we did our part well as a board to try to get community information to everybody about that. And if people choose to walk down the access road, it's at their own peril at this point, as I'm understanding people continue to do,
Yeah.
despite the contract.
We've had some recent issues where even the contractor has called Cindy and asked her to come back because there's people walking in the access path and won't listen to them, and the trucks are trying to go up and down. But I've told Cindy that's not our project, and it's not, you know, we're not staffing it, so don't go there. We don't need to get the park district involved, bring the heat on us. The contractor needs to reach out to the police department if they need that sort of help, or they need to staff it themselves with flaggers, but not our staff.
All right, so as soon as we, again, have more information, we'll be updating everybody to do that, but we're in a holding pattern, and again, I saw with beach shelter rentals, anticipating for next year about the resident use and non-resident use of the beach and so forth, because that's, the non-resident use is a ability for us to generate revenue. All of those kinds of things, again, are enough. Wait and see. We can't go right to the Lake Bluff Yacht Club. That's the next thing after that, but Livola ravine tree inventory update.
So I'm working with Michelle. Michelle's from Lavola's identified another grant, which again, she's doing most all of the work there. She brought it in today. And again, we discussed that, but this is just, you know, Park District would be pledging $5,000 as the match towards this grant. And it would be to do an updated inventory of the ravine that's going to be used as part of the plan for managing the vegetation and dealing with the native or invasive plants, mostly the maple trees that need to be removed over the next couple of years. So the timing for this would be that we would probably get a tentative idea of whether it's going to be approved, but these just work slow. This is another one through IDNR, so the Department of Natural Resources. And so it would be a tentative approval next summer with a final approval in the spring. In September. And then we would want to do the inventory at that time in the fall while the leaves are still on the trees. And so we would do that, and then that would be used as, you know, part of the plan for removing these, you know, the trees going that, or trimming trees, depending on what's needed there going forward.
So I'll kind of beat the SW because I understood that the sustainability committee from the village was looking to put something together as well. And Michelle, I know he has the contact. I mean, if you hear anything through that, so we can make sure that efforts are coordinated.
Absolutely.
That'd be
Like I said,
terrific.
they have already done their inventory, the village has.
Yeah.
On the tabletop, so that'll really help in that. Though most of the money for that grant, it's a matching grant.
Mhm.
Lowell will do some administrative work, a lot of putting the plan together. And then we will be working with Cliff to do education for the community. So there'll be a lot of education, we'll have money for flyers, et cetera. So none of that will cost the park district additional. So, yeah.
We would do some meetings, some area meetings with just neighbors of the ravine that'll be impacted, and then a larger community meeting for the ravine. And what I asked Michelle today is, to help out writing a letter or communication that we could send to the neighbors right now to let them know we are working on a plan, so that this is all going to take time, applying for grants and going tree inventory, working, planning those meetings before work is actually getting done. So it's going to be a couple of year process here. But I think putting out a communication to let residents know that we're working on it, and that, that we're aware, that it's an issue, we're working on it, and it's gonna, there's a plan in place.
I think it's a great segue too, that Ravine Park was what created the park district. And so we're hitting the 100th anniversary right as we get this grant. So there's some good marketing stuff we can do with this too, as part of the grant. I think it's a good idea.
No, I think it's wonderful, especially this update. This was timely.
So we had a,
Standing in my front yard today measuring the circumference of trees, but I think that maybe was unrelated. That might have been ComEd or the bridge people, I'm not sure. But I was like, hi, what are you taking down?
That was the bridge people.
Was it?
probably related to the bridge project.
Yeah.
I did get a
We've not
call.
done anything.
We got a call last week from a realtor that's trying to sell a house on Evanston, right next to the ravine.
Yep.
And telling us that we need to do some trimming or cutting down trees in the ravine because the canopy's too thick and it's bad for their property and the house there. So we were able to tell them we have a plan. We're working on a plan. So it's not gonna help you sell it right now, other than you can tell a prospective buyer that it's gonna be a couple of years before we are out there. We can't run out every time a realtor wants us to start trimming trees next to their property.
That's good. I like the park district on demand. Next up, anything else on the review? Okay, next up is the Lake Bluff Yacht Club. The village has approved the license for the yacht club to be able to use the land. The terms of the license, it's a $3,000 fee for them to be able to do this. And again, this is just the licensure for the use of the land. This is not pertaining to their building. As John alluded to, it's going to take some time because now they have to go through PCCBA and get approval to be able to build whatever structure that will be. But it took several sessions to get to the point of agreeing to the licensure, but that's where they are. And John will lead into that because I know that John and Jim have been active in working with the yacht club then, because what can we do on an interim basis to try to bring back some part of the sailing program for next year, given where the boat's gonna go, and then goes back to the North Shore Water Reclamation and what's happening with the policy and parking. So I don't know if you, when are you dealing with?
Meeting with Gretchen at 1:30 tomorrow afternoon. We just out with surgery, shoulder, and has bounced back, ready to go. So we're meeting tomorrow afternoon. And yeah, we're looking at, that's something that, again, the Steve Waters from North Shore Water Reclamation District did think that they would have that area, the basin done and that area leveled. But again, we're gonna have the parking lot, or as they're calling it, the plaza, ready so that it can be accessed. If it is, then we could probably do at least temporary fencing to get, again, maybe the racing boats and then the boats for the sail camp and the safety boats, at least set in there, and so that we could bring those back for next summer. So that's what we're meeting and talking a little bit more about tomorrow. Again, a lot of that's contingent on the project itself, when we're able to do it.
Maybe like a phase-in approach too, so they as more of it becomes available, they know what they can do. Like they can allow, some people to store some paddle boards or allow people whatever they, need.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is there any questions or anything you'd like us to bring up with the yacht club when we meet with them tomorrow, with at least Commodore?
No.
Were there any other restrictions put on that license?
I know there was discussion by the village about the resident versus non-resident membership.
Right.
But my apologies, I haven't gone back to look at the village video to see what the resolution was with that. But I understand that the yacht club resolved that question to them. I just don't know how.
John could get that info from Jim tomorrow.
Yeah. Be able to do that because they have, according to the information that they have, about 15% of their members are non-residents. Again, we have that agreement that the non-residents don't have to pay a fee every time they go down to use their boats, especially for the regattas and the racing and so forth. It's our arrangement, but that was one of the questions the village had.
there was discussion that they have keys, they have access whenever they want. So that was another thing I know that there was a conversation.
About
They want a key to bring the boat down there. It's not, it's given to them 24/7.
Yeah, I thought we resolved that, especially with the changes with the North Shore Water Reclamation.
They only have so many keys.
Yeah.
The yacht club is given 10 keys.
Well, they used to have 30.
They don't.
And it was mostly, it was all out of towners and young keys.
Yeah.
No. When we did a change with the keys and the locks, they actually have to sign off on each one of those keys.
Yeah.
If they lose one, then they have to pay
Right,
$50.
but what they do is that they then give it to a non-resident and they have the key. Like that, that's how I know, I set the system up, I know.
Well, you'll
It's
talk
their
about it.
responsibility with the 10 keys, who they give it to
I
each
know
one.
that, I just know the people, yeah, it's okay.
When we let those non-residents down, but we get all the benefits from the yacht club in terms of the sailing camp, so. And what they do for us.
Well, yeah, because they have the boats that are used for the sailing program, and because it is a private organization, they do the maintenance, the upkeep of those boats, making sure that they're in good condition and saleable and so forth, so we don't have to pay for that cost.
So it's a pretty good deal.
It's a good deal for us, yeah.
In the non-residents, the only access they get is to take their boat, paddle over, and bring it into the water. They don't have access actually to the beach, like to spend with their family down at the beach. We do check that, and we get pretty rigid on that. And when they bring down their family, we say to they have to pay. If those family members want to stay on the beach, then they do have to pay.
But again, having been part of this organization for a number of years, these are really dedicated sailors. They've brought a lot of very good programs here with the women's sailing group, with the youth sailing group, where people's coming from all over the place to sail our beach. So it's a great way to get people learn about this. And if you live in Libertyville, you have Lake Lanier, but it's not the same kind of water. So yeah, that's why they're members here.
Now, they're considered a world-class sailing club.
Yeah.
They really are.
Okay, so as soon as we hear more information about North Shore Water Reclamation, that really is kind of our linchpin for what's going to happen in 2024. No written communications or community comments?
Nope.
None? Okay. So next we go into executive session.
I'll move we go into executive session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of an employee pursuant to section 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act.
Second,
Second.
and roll call, please.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Lane,
Yes.
Commissioner Raymore,
Yes.
Commissioner Reader,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Weber,
Yes.
President Beeler.
Yes. Don't need a roll call again, correct? No, okay, all right, so with that, we are back in our regular meeting. We have concluded our executive session. This is our last meeting of the year. I hope everyone, whatever they do over the next couple of weeks, is safe, happy, healthy, and has all the good things around them that they can. And you have a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
And everyone in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting's concluded. Thank you.